Okay, folks, get mad at me if you want, but I'm just going to tell you what's happening at this gun rally in Tallahassee. There are now T-shirts, and there are signs. I'm going to tell you, this is becoming the Wellstone Memorial on steroids. Do you know who they've dragged into this thing? The victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. There are T-shirts with every slogan you have ever seen at a Democrat Party rally. I saw a student, is it a T-shirt or a sign? Violence occurs greater in minority communities. Oh, that was a student talking. Violence disproportionately affects minority communities. That was one of the students speaking at the rally. I'm telling you, folks, it's undeniable. You can get mad at me all you want. Well, I know you aren't going to get mad at me. I'm going to be misquoted. I'm going to be mischaracterized and represented. But I'm telling you, the Democrat Party has taken this thing over. If they're not the people sponsoring it, in fact. And it's the students here from the high school. How can they resist it? I mean, this is their spirit, their heart here. It's genuine. They're the victims. They were shot at. But the vehicle and the opportunity to do this is being made possible by money coming from donors and contributors to the Democrat Party. You see anti-NRA signs, and you see stop the guns, ban the guns. Every slogan you can imagine. Hope I don't get shot today is a sign that you see in the background here. Hope I don't get shot today. And Democrats can't resist it. Like the Wellstone Memorial, they couldn't resist it. I know many of you don't even know what I'm talking about. It was 2002. So that's 16 years ago, 15 and a half years ago. Paul Wellstone was a senator of Minnesota, died in a plane crash. At a rally. And it was before November. It was before the midterm elections in November. And the Democrats turned this thing into a full-fledged political rally. And it was a memorial. They had everything there but the casket. I mean, it was designed as almost funereal. And Wellstone had Republican friends in the Senate and colleagues led by Trent Lott, and they showed up, and they were immediately booed out of the place. The Republican senators had to get up and leave. The crowd was shouting, "We don't want you. You're not wanted. Republicans leave," or some such thing. "You've got blood on your hands," or some such thing. And Tom Harkin, you know what, Cookie, go back to the archives and grab some of the sound bites of Wellstone Memorial. I think it would be useful for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about to hear some of the things that happened at it. Because we're on the cusp of it happening again here. And it's just the Democrats politicized. I'll tell you what happened. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. The Democrats, this was 2002. George W. Bush had been president for 2 years, and they hated him. 9/11 had happened, and the politics of the aftermath of that were in full swing. And Bush was traveling the country already trying to gin up support for an attack on Iraq. And the entire episode of 9/11 was right in the middle of being politicized. And then Wellstone's plane went down. And the Democrats thought that if they did this right, they could improve or increase the number of seats they would win in the midterm elections of 2002. The rule of thumb is this. The party not in the White House makes great gains in the first off-year congressional elections. The theory is that the glow of the new president's worn off and people are a little upset and unhappy. New president not meeting expectations. This is any president, by the way. It's rule of thumb that the party in power will lose some seats in the 2002 midterms in the House and some in the Senate. The Democrats did their Wellstone Memorial, and they turned it into a hate fest. It was a full-fledged hate fest, and they ended up losing seats in the midterms. I did election night coverage on NBC that night with Tim Russert and Tom Brokaw, and Brokaw was just stunned. I got more camera time than they ever intended because Brokaw couldn't speak. To the Wellstone Memorial. And again, we're revisiting this. This was October 29th, 2002. This like a week before the 2002 midterms. And the reason we're revisiting this is because it's 18 years ago, and this audience growth is amazing. There are people listening today that may not remember the Wellstone Memorial and may not remember the way we dealt with it, may not remember its relevance. The relevance is that the Democrats will hijack anything, a funeral, a memorial, a disaster, to advance their political agenda. And they're doing it now. They're doing it in the aftermath of the school shooting in Florida. They are hijacking this for the purposes of advancing their political agenda, which is highlighted by an attack on the NRA and getting rid of guns, Second Amendment. You know the drill. And if you look at pictures from the rally in Tallahassee and the people gathered in Washington, you see things on people's T-shirts and signs being carried that have nothing to do with what happened in Florida. And you see that victims from the, family members of victims from the Orlando nightclub shooting have been brought in to join the protest movement. And so it has ballooned, and the Democrats they hijack these events because they can't help themselves. They believe this is the way to defeat Republicans, and this is the way to advance their agenda. Well, they did it with the death of Paul Wellstone, died in a plane crash in 2002. There was a memorial for the public. The funeral was private. There was a memorial for the public in a 15,000-seat arena in Minneapolis, St. Paul somewhere, and a bunch of Wellstone's Republican colleagues in the Senate went because it was a memorial. It was to pay respects and to remember Paul Wellstone. And they got booed and harassed to the point they had to leave for their own safety. And then the Democrats took to the microphones and they turned this into an ugly, hate-filled political rally that they kept referring to as something dedicated to the memory of Paul Wellstone. They ended up losing the midterm elections in 2002. That has not been done much. The party out of power generally does pretty well in the first off-year election. They managed to lose. We'll start with Tom Harkin, Democrat senator from Iowa. This was his big finish.
For Paul Wellstone, will you stand up and keep fighting for social and economic justice? Say yes! For Paul, will you stand up and keep fighting for better wages, for those who mop our floors and clean our bathrooms, for those who take care of our elderly, take care of our sick, teach our kids, and help our homeless? Say yes! For Paul, will you stand up and keep fighting for cleaner air and cleaner water, for a cleaner environment for our children and our future? Say yes! For Paul, will you stand up and keep fighting for peace and understanding and to stop the exploitation of women and children around the world? Say yes! For Paul, will you stand up and keep fighting to end discrimination based on race, gender, religion, ethnicity, or sexual orientation? Say yes! For Paul, will you stand up and keep fighting for the poor, the homeless, and those left on the roadside of life? Say yes! Now, let's all get on that bus together, that green bus, that bus of hope, and let's keep it moving to a better America. Keep standing up, keep fighting, keep saying yes to justice, to hope for people, for Paul, for Paul, for Paul.
This thing went on for 2 hours like this. You see the picture of America that Wellstone or that Harkin is painting here. It's of endless misery, endless suffering, endless filth, endless injustice, endless dirt, endless discrimination. I mean, the picture that they paint, they think they're going to win with this. Sometimes they have. But they don't win national elections like this unless they've got Obama massaging these issues in his unique professorial way. Up next, the Wellstone montage here. This is Wellstone's son, Mark, talking about his father.
We will carry on the fight. We will carry on the struggle. We will carry on the tradition. We will carry on the pride. We will carry on the struggle, and we will carry on the legacy. And we will do it for Paul. And I'll tell you what, Mom, you're right. We will win. 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 We will win.
That is Mark Wellstone, son of Paul Wellstone, at the Wellstone Memorial. Now, I'm going to predict to you, some of these things you heard Harkin say, you're going to see these signs eventually at these gun control rallies. You're going to see signs about homeless injustice. You're going to see signs about exploitation of women and minorities. You're going to see all of that. Like you see in Ferguson, like you see in Baltimore. There's two more, but to be fair about this and to jam everything in, let me take a brief time out. Just two more. Some might say they are the P.A. Resistance. Don't go anywhere. Okay, the next soundbite, Rick Kahn, K-A-H-N. Rick Kahn was the former Wellstone student and treasurer of his campaign.
He needs you now. I am begging you, please, let the people of this state hear your voice on his behalf to keep his legacy alive and help us win this election for Paul Wellstone. I can still hear that strong, clear voice calling to me that it is now our time to stand up for the people he fought for. That we need to stand up for our children. We must stand up for our seniors. We have to stand up. We are going to stand up together, and then we're going to organize. 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 We're going to organize.
That's not a technical problem there. Our tape didn't stick. He just kept saying that that's what they were going to do. Again, he's a former Wellstone student. Wellstone was a poli-sci professor and treasurer of his campaign. His name is Rick Kahn, and here we go with the
Tonight, we are filled to overflowing with overwhelming grief and sorrow.
Didn't sound like that.
If Paul Wellstone's legacy in the Senate comes to an end within just days after this unspeakable tragedy, then our spirits will be crushed and we will drown in a river of tears. We are begging you, do not let this happen. We are begging you to help us win this Senate election for Paul Wellstone. We can be the answer to his prayers if you help us win this election for Paul Wellstone.
It was a memorial. Imagine yourself at a memorial for your family member and somebody hijacks it to advance something they care about at the expense of your deceased family member. This was televised by C-SPAN. It was widely televised because everybody in the media thought it was going to be a grand home run for the Democrats, and it led to a shocking defeat some 1 week later.